Assalamu alaikum, family. Assalamu alaikum. Jump on in if you can see me. We here, we live. Just wanted to do a quick video. First, I'd like to open in the name of Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad, traveled 9,000 miles to raise and redeem a lost people here in the hills and wilderness of North America. I also like to bear witness that he raised up one from among us, a Georgia-born man who only had a 3rd, 4th grade education. And he raised up for us a messenger, Messiah, and the exalted Christ here in the hills and wilderness of North America. And I will also like to bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a divine warner, teacher, and guide in our midst. And I would like to greet you all, the viewers, with the greeting words of peace and assalamu alaikum. Dear family, I wanted to do this video. I didn't want to make it too long because I just got through doing a 2-hour video with our brother from the new Black Panther Party, Netter Cat. And he wanted to build on the Kevin Hart and Oscars and, you know, and that whole situation, you know, and the LGBTQ. So, we put in about a good 2 hours just building on his YouTube channel. So if you all get the chance, if you all get the opportunity, go and check his YouTube channel out. Subscribe to Netter Cat. You spell it Netterket. Okay, but this video is in response to anti-Farrakhan Alan Dershowitz. Okay, Alan Dershowitz has been someone who's a part of the Democratic Party that has been very critical of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And this man has been so critical, he has been to the point where he has been slanderous of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Okay, he's been slanderous and he defamed the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Okay, so this is a video to him because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has called out many Jewish leaders. Okay, and Alan Dershowitz being one of them. You know, he even stated that, you know, if Keith Ellison was elected, you know, to a certain office, that he would quit the Democratic Party just because of his old and former association and ties to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But in my view, just studying this man, truthfully, I don't think he's a Democrat. I think he's a Republican, just based on some of his views, some of his conservative views. So this video is in response to him because, like I said, the minister has put out a challenge. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has put out a challenge to the whole Jewish Zionist community to challenge them to a debate nationally and internationally. And Alan Dershowitz was one of the individuals whom the minister called out by name. So if you all don't know by now that Alan Dershowitz has declined the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's debate challenge. Okay, he has declined the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan debate challenge. And we will prove it. We will prove it with an actual news article that this man declined. And then also I will show you some video of his criticism of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I will also show you a response to one of our brothers from the Nation of Islam Research Group, responding to him not accepting the minister's challenge. So family, I'm not going to be all day, but probably a good 30 minutes or so, maybe a little longer, if you have the patience to bear with your brother. But we're going to go over some of this information if you all don't know, that Muhammad really has the devil on the run, and these individuals are really scared of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Okay, so family, if you watching this live video, come on, jump in. I'm seeing some of the comments. Assalamu alaikum, brother Ronnie Ray Curry. You said that they really don't want any part of the truth that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad represented and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan upholds as taught by the one and only Master Fard Muhammad. Yes, sir. All praises due to Allah. Yes, sir, dear brother. You were right and exact with what you just said. So we're going to kind of get into some of the reading and the video, inshallah. So just be patient with your brother. I got a cool little show for you all tonight. Who's at home chilling, ain't at the club, ain't out, with the family or something, just wanted something cool to watch, okay? So here's the letter from not the letter, but the news article in which Alan Dershowitz spoke and declined the minister's challenge. Okay, it says, hold on real quick, family. Hold on 1 second. I want to make sure that I'm able to read it, because I know you all probably can see it on your screen, but I can't see it. So just give me 1 second so I can pull it up on my phone and we can read it together. Okay. All right, we're gonna read this article together. Hold on 1 second. All right, let's get it. Alan Dershowitz pushes back on Farrakhan's showdown challenge. Veteran jurist rejects Nation of Islam leaders' call. Hold on 1 second. Call for public debate, says Democrats legitimating the bigot Farrakhan. Former Harvard Law School professor and prominent defense attorney Alan Dershowitz rejected a call by Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan for a public debate and slammed Democratic leaders for legitimating the controversial black supremacist figure. During a sermon at the Mosque Maryam in Chicago last week, the 85-year-old Nation of Islam chief called for a showdown between himself and prominent American Jewish critics, including Dershowitz and the Anti-Defamation League's Jonathan Greenblatt. A showdown, why not? We're ready to die for what we believe. So come on out, Mr. Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL, and bring Mr. Abraham Foxman with you. Come on out, Alan Dershowitz. You that say we are haters and anti-Semites, said Farrakhan. Farrakhan denied the link between Ashkenazi Jews and the land of Israel, claiming most Jews are not Semitic. You're not a native Palestinian? No, you're not. You didn't originate there. But if you did, you're a real Semitic people. But the Ashkenazi European has no connection at all to the Holy Land. None. Prove to us that you are Semitic. The native Palestinians are Semitic people, been in Palestine for thousands of years. But this that crept out of Europe, stealing the birthright of the Semitic Jews, the Semitic Arabs, he's against the Palestinians. They're Semitic people. Well, where is the real anti-Semite? On Sunday, Dershowitz responded to telling Arut Shiva he would never share a stage with a bigot like Farrakhan while criticizing leading Democrats for legitimizing the Nation of Islam leader. He said, and quote, I won't debate a bigot like Farrakhan, Dershowitz told Ruth Sheba. The problem is that leading Democrats, including Bill Clinton and Keith Ellison, has legitimated him. I won't debate Farrakhan any more than I would debate David Duke or other Holocaust deniers and Hitler lovers. Okay? So this man just outright said that he wouldn't waste his time debating with the minister, and he shamed Bill Clinton and Keith Ellison for sharing the stage with the minister. But Don Lemon interviewed, Don Lemon interviewed the minister 2 times. And I'm going to show you some footage, inshallah, that Alan Dershowitz was on CNN Don Lemon's show. Okay? He was on there to get that bag. Okay, he trying to get the bag, but you make a whole lot of claims against the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but you are afraid to have a sit down with our leader? Okay, well, let me go ahead and disabuse you with some footage, because this man has been very critical of the minister, and I'm going to show you some footage proving this. So we want to know why you don't want to have a seat with the minister and have a sit down with his team.
Black activist groups, including Al Sharpton's National Action Network, also Black Lives Matter, and the new Black Panther Party, now organizing a protest in support of and in defense of the controversial leader of the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan. The groups are protesting a congressional resolution condemning Farrakhan. With me now, Harvard Law Professor Alan Dershowitz. First of all, Professor, there are some other comments made by Farrakhan. Here's one of them. The Jews talk about never again. You cannot say never again to God, because when he puts you in the oven, you're in one indeed. He also said the Jews have control over those agencies of government. He also said this: when a woman does not know how to cook and the right foods to cook, she's preparing death for herself, her husband, and her children. Professor, Democrats like Maxine Waters, Al Green, Keith Ellison, they also have links to Farrakhan. What's going on here?
Well, first of all, Farrakhan is not only an anti-Semite, he's anti-white, he's anti-woman, he's anti-gay, he's anti-everything decent in this country. And when you get bigots supporting him, and people like Al Sharpton, who has his own history of anti-Semitism, Black Lives Matter, which singled out only Israel and called it a genocidal and apartheid country, which was anti-Semitic as well. What we have in this country is people who believe in an affirmative action program for racism for African Americans, that if you're African American, you can get away with supporting anti-Semitism, anti-gay, anti-white.
But wait a minute, because, Trump is being accused of racism, but now we've got an MSNBC host, Al Sharpton, defending this anti-Semite, this racist, anti-gay individual. I don't understand why more people are not condemning Farrakhan, including Democrats.
Well, the Democrats should condemn him. The women's movement should condemn him. Gay rights movement should condemn him. Everybody should condemn him. And I never have understood why Al Sharpton, who has a history of anti-Semitism, a history about lying and falsely accusing people of crime, should be on a major network. If you had a white person who was equivalently racist against blacks and who defended David Duke, he would never, ever get on the air on a national network. And yet we have affirmative action for black racism, and that's just unjustified. We have to have zero tolerance for bigotry, racism, anti-Semitism, and under the standard of zero tolerance, not only doesn't Farrakhan satisfy it, but neither does Sharpton, neither does Black Lives Matter, and neither do the congressmen who are now standing in support of a bigot and anti-Semite. Imagine a Republican congressman standing in support of David Duke, and Farrakhan is much, much, much more dangerous than David Duke, because Farrakhan has the support of hundreds of thousands of African Americans. What's my source for that? My source for that is Sharpton, who says that he has massive support in the African American community. David Duke doesn't have any support. And so we should not have a double standard, and Democrats and all decent people should come out not only against Farrakhan, but any congressperson who supports Farrakhan.
Yeah, so let's get to one of those congressmen, Professor. It's Democrat Congressman of Illinois. He's Danny Davis. He tried to clarify his position and his praise. Danny Davis has praised Farrakhan and has met with Farrakhan. Here's what he's saying now, quote, I disagree with Minister Farrakhan in terms of white people being devils and Jewish people being satanic. But I also protect his right as a free individual to say and do whatever he wants to do. I think he does outstanding things for especially blacks who are unsure about themselves and people who've been in prison. Your reaction to that?
People said the same thing about Adolf Hitler, that he did good things for the German people. You cannot justify this kind of bigotry by saying that he also does some decent things. And I think it's a scandal that the Democratic Party and liberals and the New York Times lets black bigots off the hook. It only attacks the bigotry on the right. Today, the danger of bigotry is far greater from the hard left, from the African-American community, from the Muslim community, from many other communities which tolerate bigotry than it is from the right. Look, anti-Semitism is wrong from both the right and the left. We all condemn it from the right. Let's join together and condemn it from the left, regardless of the race of the person who's behind it.
Professor Alan Dershowitz, we love having you on. Come back soon, sir.
It does, and if they now appoint Keith Ellison, who worked with Farrakhan, to be chairman of the DNC, you can...
I'm going to get your take on. There's a photo that has emerged from 2005 recently from the Congressional Black Caucus. It was buried by them. A picture of then, I believe it was candidate or Senator Obama with Louis Farrakhan in a photo that was taken then. But the photographer on Tucker said, he was on Tucker Carlson talking about, hey, well, we've got the sound. We'll play what the photographer said about that photo. Listen.
A staff member from the Black Caucus called me and said, we have to have the picture back. And I was kind of taken aback. The thought was Minister Farrakhan and his reputation would hurt someone trying to win acceptance in the broad cross-section of people who want that acceptability in the crossover, you might say, can't stand the inquisition that comes with being associated with Minister Farrakhan.
So, Professor, why would Barack Obama not want a picture with Louis Farrakhan in the public?
Because Louis Farrakhan is a virulent anti-Semite. He's called Judaism a gutter religion. He's anti-American. He is a horrible, horrible human being. And if I had known that the president had posed smilingly with him when he was a senator, I would not have campaigned for Barack Obama. It would have influenced my decision. I threatened to leave the Democratic Party if Keith Ellison were elected as chairman because of his association with Farrakhan. You don't associate with a bigot. You don't associate with an anti-Semite. There should be zero tolerance for that kind of bigotry. And if Barack Obama associated with him, if the Black Caucus invited him, I don't blame them for trying to suppress the truth, because that's a really horrible truth. We should have nobody.
He don't even want black people to support other black people.
Like the Reverend Farrakhan.
Thank you, Professor. Well, it'll be interesting to see if there are other things that become uncovered as we move forward, and the Barack Obama presidency is in our rearview mirror. Things will pop up.
Well, we need the truth about every presidency and every president and every candidate.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
They meant Jews, and it has to be attacked at the root. There can't be any tolerance. We have to have zero tolerance. President Obama meets with Farrakhan. Shame on him. President Clinton sits on the same platform with Farrakhan. Shame on him. Keith Ellison joins with Farrakhan. Farrakhan is one of the greatest purveyors of anti-Semitic hate. Just because he's black doesn't give him a pass on anti-Semitism. And any liberal who has any positive association with Farrakhan is part of the problem, not part of the solution.
And you say zero tolerance, and yet Twitter, as of very recently, one of our guests a moment ago said it's still up there. I have to double check to be factual. There's this hateful speech where Farrakhan, among his many hateful speeches, compares Jews to termites. Facebook, to their credit, took that down. Twitter has not.
Well, you know, Twitter has policies.
I'm going to show y'all a compilation of lies and defamation from Alan Dershowitz.
That there are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of Americans who support Farrakhan, who support David Duke, who support anti-Semites. They will try to glorify this guy.
Mainstream him is really
They will try to mainstream him. We can't allow that to happen. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you cannot allow that to happen.
Keith Ellison, you think that, I don't know if you think he's anti-Semitic, but you think some of his views and some of the things he said in the past are anti-Semitic?
Well, I think there's no question that he has made anti-Semitic statements in the past. He has associated with virulent anti-Semites. And for me, the greatest disqualification is after working closely with Farrakhan, who called Judaism a gutter religion, who has attacked Israel, said that the Jews were major involvement in the slave trade. Ellison gets up and says, I didn't know he was an anti-Semite until I decided to run for office in a neighborhood that has a lot of Jewish voters. It was opportunistic. It was calculated. Then he votes against the Iron Dome. How do you vote against the Iron Dome? The Iron Dome is a methodology of protecting civilians from terrorist rocket attacks. Why are the Democrats thinking of picking somebody who is so extreme? They're going to turn the Democratic Party into the Labour Party in England with Corbyn. Remember the last time.
Back now with my panel with a fascinating discussion. So, Alan, the question is, to pick up on where you were talking about Keith Ellison, who's running to be the DNC chair. How is opposing some of Israel's policy? How is that anti-Semitic? And isn't that what we do in this country?
It's not. No, I do that myself. And favoring the two-state solution is good, but voting against the Iron Dome is unacceptable. Voting to supporting the UN resolution that says that Israel has no control over the Western Wall and the access road to Hebrew University. But let's go back to the time when he was with Farrakhan, or when he spoke to somebody when he was a law school student.
Members, they're not going anywhere. They have nowhere to go. It's the new generation. Where are they going? They have no leadership. They literally have no leadership at the state levels. They're at the lowest point since 1920. And we were having a conversation about some quotes from a newspaper, in a college newspaper, and an association that Keith Ellison had with someone, and he's guilty by association. Now, you made an accusation of him and he didn't respond. I didn't know that you had to respond to every single accusation out there. The question
a good,
here,
serious one.
But he won't respond to the minister,
though.
He won't Keith Ellison to respond.
Let her answer. Go ahead.
I think, you mentioned Haim Saban, and that is exactly what's indicative of the problem with the DNC right now and what people are debating. They have been beholden to a few major donors. Now, he funded the actual structure of the Democratic Party. So that's why people are freaking out. They're afraid of losing his money. And the other conversation being had is, why do we have to donate from members? Why do we have to donate so that we can just fund all these consultants who have been...
We have been playing over the last couple of days these extraordinary things that Louis Farrakhan has said. We're going to go ahead and run that right now just to remind people of what he has said in the past.
Here the Jews don't like Farrakhan, so they call me Hitler. Well, that's a good name. Hitler was a very great man. Your country has been taken from you by the synagogue of Satan, the satanic Jews. Because you see, white people deserve to die. White folks are going down.
Professor, there were 8 Democrats in Congress that were linked to Farrakhan and seen in pictures standing with him, taking meetings with him. So many Republicans and Democrats said, you need to separate yourself from this guy. 3 of them did. 3 black members of Congress did. And now the Nation of Islam is calling them sellouts. Should more Democrats come out and say, you need to stop, you need to all separate yourself from him? What's your response to this?
Well, I think more than just separate themselves. I think Keith Ellison has to be fired immediately as deputy chairman of the DNC. Not only has he become close to Farrakhan, but he's lied to the American public about ending his relationship with Farrakhan. We know that he continued to meet with Farrakhan even after he said he no longer met with him. This is the leadership of the Democratic Party. Farrakhan is a bigot. He is far worse than David Duke. Why? Because Farrakhan has a large following. David Duke is a joke. He doesn't have a large following. He has no influence on university campuses. He has no influence with any major segment of the American public. But we see that Farrakhan has continuing influence within the African American community at the very highest levels. That's why he's so much more dangerous. And he ought to be treated the way we treat David Duke. If any Republican dared to meet with David Duke, that would be the end of their career. It should be the end of the career of any Democrat who has any association with this bigot Farrakhan.
Why does he have such a following when he says these kinds of remarks?
because he also tries to help the black community.
Yeah.
Look, Hitler helped the communities in Germany as well. He ended unemployment. He helped inflation. Stalin, the same thing. Every bigot can claim to do some good. Even David Duke has said that, look, he helps energize the American whites. That's all nonsense.
Sure.
When you're a bigot, you're a bigot. And when you're an anti-Semite, there can be zero tolerance for anti-Semitism. The Democrats have to do something about this. They cannot be associated with this bigot, and race is no excuse. We don't have affirmative action when it comes to bigotry. Whether you're black or white, you cannot be associated with a bigot like Farrakhan.
So, dear family, I just played and laid out a compilation of lies and defamation coming from this man. And this man doesn't have the courage to stand up and defend his own rhetoric towards the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And if you was listening to his tone of voice, it was very malicious. It was very malicious towards the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, with nothing friendly about what he said. You know what I mean? It was he was taking the stance in direct opposition as an enemy towards the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. This is the stance that this man has taken, and he doesn't even have the testicular fortitude to stand before the world, and defend his words that he said on CNN and Fox News. Okay? So the brother, not this dude, but the enemy don't even have enough guts. You know what I'm saying? Because he knows the time in which we are living in, and the time of what must be done. And they know the story of the prophet Elijah in the Bible. You know what I mean? And this is what the minister is pressing, and they know this. The enemy knows the truth. So he's trying to weasel his way up out of it. But I'm going to read an official response from our family, from the research group of the Nation of Islam, Jackie Muhammad, in response to Dershowitz. Okay? So bear with me. Okay, memo to Alan Dershowitz, part 2. Okay, by Jackie Muhammad. Okay, to Alan Dershowitz, Fox News commentator, from Jackie Muhammad, Nation of Islam Research Group, read the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's call for public debate. Mr. Dershowitz, I am not surprised that you have declined to accept the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's invitation to participate in the public debate to clarify the false charges of anti-Semitism that you so freely and cavalierly leveled against the national representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. The minister is calling for a showdown with you and the other prominent American Jewish critics who have defamed him and the Nation of Islam for the past 36 years. Your defamation is based on repeated lies concerning that which were manufactured out of complete falsehood and deceit. Types like yourself can't stand in the face of truth. You so cowardly say that you would not publicly debate the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. His challenge to you and others is not to debate him. He is God's representative. He plainly and clearly expresses the will of God. It is to meet in the public square with the Nation of Islam scholars who are equipped to prove that you are nothing more than a rank slanderer and defamer and one of Satan's minions. The minister's truthful assertions are succinct and clear. The Ashkenazi Jews are not Semites, and you are not native Palestinians. The minister is not interested in religious polemics. He is after the truth And the truth is that the Ashkenazi Jews are converts to Judaism, not original Hebrew Israelites. They converted from paganism in the land known as Khazaria in 740 AD. The original Palestinians were a black people called Natufians. They occupied Palestine when the Ashkenazim were still occupants of the Caucasus Mountains. You may want to read The Chosen People from the Caucasus by Michael Bradley. You have been one of the leading critics of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You regularly appear on Fox News and in American and Israeli print media spewing venomous falsehoods and outright lies against the minister. Yet, when you are called out to defend yourself against your lies against the minister, when you are called out to defend yourself against your lies and distortions, you become like the great Houdini. Houdini was a Hungarian-born American illusionist and stunt performer renowned for his sensational acts. Your attacks on the minister has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. This has to do with uncovering and exposing Satan. You have leveled all kinds of charges against the minister, and as an astute lawyer, you know they are false, but when called out to publicly defend yourself, you run and hide. Here is a face-saving alternative. Write your responses to our charges. You are a prolific author. Let your pen do in private what you refuse to do in public. What baffles me, however, is why you have such fear of a public face-to-face debate. You have made a career of public debates. You have debated some of the most notable members of academia, politics, pundits, and media representatives. For example, you have debated Dr. Cornel West at Harvard. You have debated Noam Chomsky, the American linguist, historian, and social activist. You have debated Young Turk reporter Nomiki Konst on CNN, as well as attorney Michael Avenatti, potential presidential candidate and lawyer for Trump antagonist Stormy Daniels. Yet, when you are challenged to debate the followers of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you take a powder? As a paid mouthpiece for the anti-Muslim Gatestone Foundation, a think tank with a focus on Islam in the Middle East, an organization that has published false articles and a source of viral falsehoods, and you are handsomely rewarded to the tune of $120,000 a year to justify their Islamophobia. This is all indicative of your hatred of Islam and Muslims. You have defended some of the most notorious criminals in America. Among them are Michael Milken and Rabbi Meir Kuhane. As you know, Michael Milken was the junk bond king. In the book by the former page one editor at the Wall Street Journal and Pulitzer Prize winner James Stewart, the author in his book, Den of Thieves, detailed the massive and consistent criminality of Milken's operations at the investment bank Drexel Burnham that forced the company into bankruptcy. Dare we mention Rabbi Meir Kuhane, founder of the Jewish Defense League, a political extremist, American terrorist who was imprisoned for bomb making, and he organized armed patrols of young Jews into black neighborhoods, and he advocated the death of innocent Palestinians. You make it sound as if your presence on stage with Minister Farrakhan legitimates him. Surely you jest. Minister Farrakhan has been legitimized by God and the millions of people under the sound of his voice from around the world who respond to his clarion call to return to the ways of God, which are truth and unity. He is honored and respected by the leadership of foreign nations like Ghana and Iran and the Sudan and South Korea, the Gambia, Palestine, etc., and the numerous nations that have received and honored him on his 3 world tours. Some of these leaders have so much respect for him that they have permitted him to address their government and their military as an act that is unprecedented for any world leader. We sincerely hope you have a change of heart and a change of mind and accept the minister's invitation. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there, family. So with that being said, like I said, I didn't intend to make this video long at all. I didn't intend to make this video long. So all those who logged on, if you didn't notice, if you weren't up to date on this news, that your boy Alan Dershowitz has officially declined and rejected the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's challenge to debate and defend their stance against him and his followers. You know what I'm saying? We now know and bear witness that Muhammad does have Satan on the run, and we know that we have an indefensible truth. The enemy cannot defend himself against the truth that we speak. All he can do is throw stones and hide his hands. But we ask you, Alan Dershowitz, and all those who critique the Nation of Islam, is why do you throw stones when you live in the glass house? So with that being said, dear family, I appreciate you all for logging on and enjoying this message. And I greet you as I came with the greeting words of peace in paradise. Assalamu alaikum.